Hi, welcome to the first in a series of short videos about doing archival research in the middle of a pandemic with staff from the Reuther Library and Archives. We have with us today Meghan Courtney, the Reuther's Outreach Archivist, and Kristen Chinery, the Reuther's Reference Archivist. Our first question for Meghan and Kristen today is, when you're starting to do research online, how do you know what's available online? How do you find what you need?
Kristen? I can start. Okay, so I would say, first of all, the same tools that you would use to begin your search are going to be the same ones that you really want to use when you're looking for online resources. The issue is that it's sometimes really difficult to tell which things are going to be available online and which things aren't. So if you feel as though you're not finding an exhaustive list of everything that is digitized available online, that's because one doesn't really exist at this point. So I would say if you are going to use tools like Archive Grid, for example, you're going to have kind of an amalgamated view of all these different institutions, but you're probably going to have to look in these individual finding aids or tools to figure out which things are digitized specifically. But that said, if you know that a lot of your material that you're going to need is going to be at a specific archival institution, it's always a good bet to ask the archivist what is available online and what you might be able to see, because not everything that is digital, that has been digitized or is born digital, is going to be readily available through the finding aid system. Some of the things we just haven't described online yet and links aren't ready, but that doesn't mean that they aren't digital things that you could see. What do you think, Kristen?
Also, be sure to check catalog records if you are relying on your school's, like Wayne State's catalog, and you're doing a search. There are options for searching by archival object, so you can search that way to find primary sources.
Can I ask you, you mentioned Archives Grid. Are there other places like that? I don't know that all of our students will have used that. And in fact, some of them might have done just as you said. They sort of know where their main archives are going to be, and they would go directly to their sites. Are there other tools like Archives Grid that you would recommend, particularly for students who are just starting out and don't necessarily have a physical location in mind, but have rough topics in mind, where they can start to see where, if you're just building a project, where you might find born digital or more digitized information. So you could do an entirely digital project if you needed.
Well, if you're just getting started, one place that you might look would be Digital Public Library of America. It's dp.la. That's the web address. So one thing about that site is that it does kind of it pulls together whatever people have ingested into it. So it's a lot of different institutions across the country, but certainly not all. It's going to be a small subset of people that are kind of participating in this big machine. But it's also true that a lot of the stuff there is going to be visual. So it can be a really great kind of starter for you to know what kinds of things might be available. But there is going to be more emphasis on things like photographs, maybe textiles, things like that, and a little bit less on your like text-based documents.
Anything else from Kristen? Any other?
Oh, that's good.
That's good. DPLA and Archives Grid. And I think one of the things that's probably important for students to know is that Google is not going to turn up everything they want. And in fact, it's probably not going to turn up most of what they want in this instance.
Yeah, so depending on the way that archives have set up their discovery systems, a lot of them are really, really bad at search engine optimization. So that's just the reality right now. The things that you Google are going to be much more likely to be like commercial sites or, things like obituaries, find a grave websites, which are sometimes part of your research, but are not as likely to be your archival sources that you would want. So going through those kind of more specifically archival search portals is going to be much more productive for you.
So they should think about perhaps doing online research in the same way they would think about doing research if they were planning to go to the archive, but rather than going to the archive, they should then get in touch with an archivist. They shouldn't assume that everything that they can turn up themselves on an archive's website is going to be the only thing available to them.
Definitely not, yeah.
That's okay. Great. Excellent answer to question 1.